Christmas at Ground Zero by Weird Al Yankovic on this December 5th, 2020. Welcome to the first episode of Dylan Knows in Diciembre, and it just so happens to be Krampusnacht in America. Krampusnacht in America. Krampus night. And it's mostly European holiday thing about a giant demonic Santa Claus that kidnaps bad children, takes them to the woods, and beats the shit out of them. But hey, what am I doing? This is episode 379 of Dylan Knows, Krampusnacht in America, which is a play on News Night in America or Football Night in America, whatever. So I thought Krampusnacht in America would be good. And I found my Krampus sweater. I didn't think I was going to be able to find it, but I did. I bought the Krampus movie this summer, but haven't watched it yet. So hopefully I'll see that soon. And I have my Krampus Funko Pop. I don't know, there's something about Krampus I like. And so lucky that despite the torturous year that this was, that I've been able to do so many shows on holidays or whatever. Next week's is my daughter's birthday. Don't know if I'll be doing it on Saturday because it is her birthday or some other time, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And then 19th and 20th. And then, hey, so we don't have that much long to do, actually. It's less than 3 weeks now. It's 20 days to Christmas now, which is obviously it's December 5th. It's also the birthday of my niece, Kylie. Yesterday was the birthday of my sister-in-law, Shannon. Monday, Pearl Harbor Day, is also the birthday of my brother-in-law's mother, who comes and visits all the time with us. So we got a lot of that. And then my daughter's birthday is next Saturday, 14th, 1 week from today. So in 7 days, she'll be 14. So, and it's baby Jesus' birthday. So we got all kinds of fun stuff heading our way. But hey, it is Christmas, is Krampusnacht in America right now. And tonight's episode of Dylan Knows, we've got two major deaths and some other ones as well, but two big ones. One that happened yesterday. We'll talk a little bit about those. More about the Ravens COVID crisis and their Wednesday football game. Get my Batman Catwoman number one review. Last week I was telling you how excited I was for it and find out what I thought about it. Hawkeye, the TV show, surprises, and we'll talk about that in a little bit too. We also have the monoliths are making a small story into a big story now. Something about Havana syndrome, which is kind of a scary thing, which I didn't know about now. Oscar Isaac is continuing to get busy. We also get a overview of the new season of Fortnite and Pokemon Gen 6, as well as the lead up to the up to level 50 now. Christmas decorations. The WB Warner Brothers does something with HBO Max that I'm a little peeved about. We'll talk about that in a little bit too. Lord of the Rings cast is in the news. SpaceX says we could be in Mars. We have a manned mission to Mars sooner than you might think. Studio Ghibli is in this story as well. Kit Kat. Hey, we have the return of Kit Kat, Starbucks, and Oreo to the show. We have a new transgender actor, some new candles, a Golden Girls remake coming, and you're not going to believe the two people who are involved in it. PS5 actually makes an appearance on this one as well. Lay's potato chips also is something good. Another semi-famous person gets COVID. Chris Claremont makes news again. You know who Chris Claremont is? You'll find out soon. The House of Representatives decriminalized something. We'll let you know about that. And we got some space stuff and other things as well. Tiny Town, Australia. Koala bears. A lot of Christmas stuff. Obi-Wan Kenobi. Hello there. And Plastic Man is another one that we're going to talk about here. So without further ado, I want to try to hope that I don't have any issues with the the feed tonight, Krampus willing, of course. So here we go with episode 379 of Dylan Knows, Krampusnacht in America. Krampus. So for that, of course, I always have to do my celebratory drink. Some news that my wife and I just discussed this week. Our Christmas presents to each other, we think we're going to get a new computer because the one we have right now has been with us for a really long time and it's starting to show its age a little bit. So we're thinking about getting a new computer this Christmas season before Christmas so we can all use it. And if that's the case, I've had some ideas for some podcasts I'd like to maybe try out and continue to do this show, obviously, but we'll see how things are going. But that could be something that comes in 2021. But for now, we're going to try to get a new computer here under. Hopefully, things will go move faster, and do better. So we'll do that now. We're going to hit you with the deaths first because there are two big ones, both with the name of David in it, and then there are a few other ones, maybe not as big, but still deaths, it's sad. The first one earlier this week, pretty much like the day after I did last week's show on the 30th, was 29th, whatever. Anyway, David Prowse, the body of Darth Vader, passed away this week. Now, for those who might not know, in the original trilogy, Darth Vader was played by actor David Prowse. He was the one who was dressed in the garb. Can't you tell by me, garb? And James Earl Jones was the voice of Darth Vader. So David Prowse, the body of Darth Vader, passed away this week as well. Yesterday, and I didn't actually hear the news until today, actor David Lander died at the age of 73. Now, if you don't know who David Lander is, he is a character actor who's been in a bunch of famous things. And once I tell you his most famous things, you'll know who he is right away. Back in the late, I guess it was the later 70s, mid to late 70s, TV had some big hits, and I guess early 80s as well, had some big hits. Shows like Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley. Excuse me. Well, on Laverne and Shirley, we had Laverne and Shirley, played by Penny Marshall and Cindy Williams. And the two males, Lenny and Squiggy, who always were pursuing them, but were also good friends to them, were played by Michael McKean and David Lander. David Lander passed away yesterday. He was Squiggy at the age of 73. Now, you might remember him from that. Other things you might remember him from. He was the voice of the head weasel in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. He was one of the sportscasters, League of Their Own, which was, coincidentally enough, directed by his former co-star, Penny Marshall. He also appeared in one of my favorite shows of all time, Twin Peaks. Very small role, but it wasn't a major role, but he was in a few episodes of Twin Peaks, and David Lynch liked him so much that you guys probably don't know this, but he actually did another show for ABC called On the Air, which takes place during the Silver Age of television, and David Lander was one of the stars of that show. It was a half-hour it was like David Lynch trying to do a half-hour sitcom in a David Lynch sort of way. And David Lander was one of the main stars of the film, or the TV show, I should say. I enjoyed it. It was a little bit whacked out, but it was enjoyable enough. And Ian Buchanan, also of Twin Peaks fame, was also put in On the Air as well, as was Miguel Ferrer. So it was an interesting show, and I haven't been able to find it anywhere. Actually, haven't had a chance to. Haven't really looked at it for it on here, but I highly doubt that they have any collection On the Air. I'll say Blu-ray. They probably never even heard of it. Yep. Yeah, so I wish they would release On the Air because I remember it, but I don't remember it that well. And a lot of people don't know that that David Lynch was actually, and Mark Frost, I think, were actually both involved in that show as well. So David Lander's been in a lot of stuff, and there's probably some other stuff that I'm missing that he's taken care of. But he's that sort of actor that you would recognize. He has a very distinct voice that you could, you would recognize in a second. So he passed away yesterday at the age of 73, which is the same age as my father and my father-in-law. Another actor died at the age of 73 also, Hugh Keys-Byrne. He's an Australian actor who played Immortan Joe in Mad Max Fury Road. He died at the age of 73. Rayford Johnson, Olympic legend who was immortalized in downtown mural in Los Angeles, died as well. Ben Bova, legendary sci-fi writer up there with an Isaac Asimov and Harlan Ellison and stuff like that. Ben Bova is a lesser known, but he's still fairly famous out there. He passed away this week as well. There was one other big one. I know I have it. I just forgot to add the D to it for death. I know it's around here somewhere. I wish I remember what his name was. I'll find it eventually, but there he is. WWE, here he is. WWE Hall of Famer Pat Patterson died at the age of 79. He was the first out gay wrestler, so he passed away this week as well. And Trixie, the largest female whale shark in captivity, died at the Georgia Aquarium this week as well. So sad stuff for everybody involved, for families and stuff like that. And we're keeping on. So that's what's going on with that. Those are the big deaths this week. This is an interesting story I found today. Divers in the Baltic Sea were just diving, and maybe they've been searching for something, I don't know, but they weren't doing anything deliberate. They were just sort of diving when they came across what they thought was an old school typewriter that was on the bottom of the Baltic Sea. So they brought it back up, and once they cleaned up a little bit, they looked at it as like, this isn't a typewriter, it's an Enigma machine. And what an Enigma machine was that in World War II, the Nazis, they used this Enigma machine to send and decode messages to their allies. It's something that has, it's been seen a bunch of times, but they believe that it was in a submarine that either was destroyed in the Baltic Sea or they jettisoned it so that no one would be able to figure it out and be able to decode their messages. So the fact of the matter is they found it now, 70 some years after World War II, is really insane. So it's kind of neat to find something historical like that as well. The Baltimore Ravens, my football team, made the news headlines the last week or so. Before Thanksgiving. The Ravens played a terrible game against the Titans, which they before Thanksgiving. The Ravens played a terrible game against the Tennessee Titans, which they should have won, and they just fell flat at the end and looked flat, were disrespected in their home field by the Tennessee Titans, not only in the game, but also by players doing stupid, dumb, childish things for the Tennessee Titans. Anyway, it was a harsh loss to the Ravens, who had lost to them in the playoffs last year when they should have gone to the Super Bowl. They lost in the first round to Tennessee anyway, and a terrible game there as well. And they really haven't been the same since that game. They at the time they had a 6-2 record, and it was 6-4. No, 6-3. It was a 6-3. Yeah, it was a 6-3 record, I think. So anyway, it doesn't matter. So the next day, a number of the Ravens players developed COVID and were put on the COVID list. The next day, a few more. And then things got scary because this is the week of Thanksgiving. They were going to play a game against the Steelers. So 2 days of positive COVID. They're all their big-time starters, Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews, Mark Ingram, L.J. Dobbins, or J.K. Dobbins, excuse me, L.J. Ford, a bunch of their secondary, defensive, all their big players were all catching COVID. There were 23 people on the COVID list by that Wednesday, so they could not play that game against the Steelers on Thanksgiving. So they moved the game originally to Sunday afternoon at 1:15. More positive cases kept erupting. They had, I think, 6 or 7 straight days of positives, and they discovered it was from a strength and conditioning coach who refused to wear the mask. So he was been disciplined. Don't know what that means, if he's been suspended or fired or whatever, but they have not revealed that information, but that's what caused the COVID responses. So then it looked like they weren't going to play on Saturday, or Sunday rather, so then they were going to move it to Tuesday. And then it looked like they weren't going to play on Tuesday either, so they moved it to Wednesday afternoon because NBC had the rights to air the game, and they were going to air the game because they're going to air it on Thanksgiving, and then they were going to air it on that Sunday at 1:15, and they were going to air it again on that Tuesday. So they had the rights to do it. But on Wednesday, that night at 8 o'clock for prime time, they were going to do the live broadcast of the lighting of the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree. And they weren't going to give that up, so they moved the Ravens game to 3:40 p.m. in the afternoon. So the Ravens played their game on Wednesday against the Steelers, who are undefeated, and it was a rivalry game at 3:40 p.m. on a Wednesday afternoon in Pittsburgh. And the Ravens had put together a small group. Their team was made up of backups, second stringers, and stuff like that. The starting quarterback was our backup RG3. And in the end, our defense played out of their mind. Our offense could have been a whole lot better, but they held their own in certain, respects. But the game was won by the defense. Not won, but the defense did the best job and did a surprising job. And RG3 got knocked out, unfortunately, due to injury. So they brought in Trace McSorley, who is a kind of a rookie quarterback from Penn State, came in, got a touchdown, and with about 3 minutes left in the game, the Ravens were only down by 5, 19-14. So the Ravens for 3 quarters held the Pittsburgh Steelers 19-14. So the Ravens for 3 quarters held the Pittsburgh Steelers to 3 field goals in the red zone. And 1 touchdown was not in the red zone. It was thrown, far away. It was it was a ridiculous game regardless. But the fact that an undefeated team that only was missing, because the Steelers had some COVID cases too, but they only had 5 people had COVID, and only 1 was a major player on their team. So they had basically their whole team playing, their main team playing against scrubs and second stringers and third stringers on the Ravens. And the Ravens still made the game a close Steelers-Ravens rivalry game, as it always is, because unlike what Jerry Rice believes, the Baltimore Ravens Pittsburgh Steelers is, and this is the NFL in general of Jerry Rice, believes that Steelers-Ravens is one of the greatest NFL rivalries in NFL history. And I'm not just being a homer. They multiple times have said that. People ask them, what are your top 3 or top 5 rivalries in the NFL? And they always say Steelers-Ravens, and they say Washington and Dallas. There's another one. And Green Bay and Chicago, I think, is another one that they do a lot of. So the fact that this scrub team, the Ravens have been playing awful. They've in the last 3 games, they've lost 2 of them, and barely won against the Colts. They haven't been playing well. They lost this one 19-14, but they played out of their minds, and there were a couple of chances where they could have won. Again, the refs screwed them a little bit, but at the same time, they also penalized themselves with multiple penalties and stuff like that. So a lot of different things. So very proud of the Ravens. But because of that, the Ravens were supposed to play the Dallas Cowboys this past Thursday. That game has been moved to Tuesday. And by that time, we should have all of our players back, because the Ravens have not had a positive COVID in 4 days. So that's a good sign. So we'll see if Lamar plays. He will get tested one more time tomorrow. If he's still negative, then he can start practice, and he will probably start on Tuesday. So That being said, the NFL released an investigation piece today that basically says there were 4 unique strains of COVID-19 that hit the Ravens, 3 of which were stopped in their tracks by whatever reason, however reason, masks, social distancing, whatever, because the Ravens, for the most part, did their job except for this one coach. But that one that the coach had, whatever, was the one that tore through it. But the fact that there were 4 unique COVID-19 strains in the Ravens, the castle, is kind of scary. The fact that could there be multiple strains of COVID out now? Could the ones that maybe hit earlier this year were the ones where most people were caught off guard and were killed or had really bad effects to it? Maybe these new ones aren't as strong as that one was. Maybe that one disappeared over the summer, and maybe some of these new ones split off from that one, because while we still have an increase in positives across the board and more deaths and stuff like that, it still doesn't seem to be as bad as it was, which is a weird thing to say. It's still terrible, but the fact that there was 4 unique strands in the Ravens clubhouse is scary. So hopefully they've worked all the kinks out of that, and we'll take care of that as well. Other science, and this can go for human beings as well. One particular human being, which we're not going to discuss. The louder the monkey, the smaller its balls. This is science. The scientists said this. They said that howler monkeys or whatever that are screaming, yelling, beating their chests, being the loudest, have the smallest balls. Yes, meaning the male genitalia. And that goes for certain people in our country as well. Not going to say any names. But it's kind of fascinating that an actual scientist came out and said, yep, that's the truth. Here's something science shouldn't have done. True Moo, which is a type of milk, I guess, a more maybe depasteurized, it's a brand milk anyway, has come up with a holiday flavored milk, mint vanilla milk, which actually sounds very disgusting to me. I mean, I like mints, meaning like, certs and, and Altoids and stuff like that. I like to suck on stuff that are round, and okay, we're not going to go there anymore. But in a milk flavor, yeah, no, that doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. So yuck. Something that does work though. S'mores blossom cookies. Now, for those who don't know what blossom cookies are, they're the ones where you have the cookie and you have the kiss, the Hershey's Kiss on top of it, and you cook it that way, and it doesn't melt. You cook it enough so that it doesn't melt the kiss, and it doesn't, and it still makes the cookie not hard but kind of chewy and soft, and they're delicious. My wife makes them a lot, and they're really good to suck on the triangular kiss flavor. All right, I got to stop on that. Anyway, I saw a recipe for s'mores blossom cookies, and this sounds really good. So basically, they add one thing to it. So your base cookie can be anything: a peanut butter cookie, sugar cookie, chocolate, whatever you want to do. And then the kiss can be any one you want. Also, you can do one with caramel or real dark chocolate ones, whatever. You can do whatever you want with it. This one is the cookie is graham cracker cookie, which is what a s'more is used for. Then you have a layer of marshmallow you put on top of that, and then you put the kiss on top of that, and then you cook that, and the marshmallow doesn't melt completely, but it goes from being up high like this down low, and the chocolate is on top of it. So you get the chocolate marshmallow graham flavor in this Christmas cookie. So I'm looking at that as like, that might be kind of interesting to maybe do and take a look at. You got to find some graham cracker cookie dough. That shouldn't be too hard now, should it? Getting to comics now. We got 3 comic stories. First up, Plastic Man has been in the comics for a long time, and then he disappeared for a while, and then he's come back recently when DC bought the rights to him. And he's basically what you think. He's basically Deadpool, but basically can stretch his, like Mr. Fantastic, his arms, legs, head, body, whatever. Well, they are planning a live action movie version of Plastic Man, but instead they're going to make Plastic Man a woman. And you're going to have a Plastic Woman. No, not a blow-up doll, a plastic woman. It's intriguing to see. Be more intriguing to see if her breasts would go whoop, but that's besides the point. Or the legs go way back. Whatever. Yeah, chill out there, buddy. Anyway, but a Plastic Woman movie, could be interesting. We'll see. But that's in the process right now, pre-production, whatever you want to call it right now. So, a little bit of history about this. So, the MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe, for the first time in years, is not going to have a single film or TV show out in 1 year. Of course, granted, it's 2020, which has been a shitty year. We were going to have two. We were going to have Black Widow and the Eternals, but they've been shifted to 2021. And along with that, you'll get Shang-Chi and Spider-Man, third movie as well. And you're going to get the first Disney Plus television show. You're supposed to get two of those this year also. You're supposed to get Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and you're supposed to get WandaVision. But again, because of COVID, those have been moved to 2021. Now, WandaVision was easier to get done because it was more in a self-contained area. Unlike the Falcon and Winter Soldier, which is a world-spanning storyline, WandaVision was able to be filmed in a set location for the entire series. Various visits to other places, but the main genesis of the show is in this one area. And so they were able to finish their series before Winter Soldier or Falcon and Winter Soldier. So WandaVision, as I've announced weeks ago, will be coming out on Disney Plus on January 15th. So that's only about a month or so, a month and a few days from now. We'll get our first MCU content in 2 years, which would be really cool. So Disney Plus, when they were first announced last year, 2019, the big drawing point was they were going to have all these Marvel TV shows. The movies are still going to be there, but the main characters that you're used to seeing in the movies might be stepping away to introduce new characters. Granted, you're still going to have your Black Widows and your Spider-Man and stuff like that, and you're going to have your Thor movie coming out soon. But there is no Iron Man movie for obvious reasons. There's no Captain America movie coming for obvious reasons. There's no Hulk movie coming. There's no another Ant-Man 3 is going to be coming soon, but not for a while. I'm trying to think of any other characters. The Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is going to be coming soon, but not for a while because James Gunn is busy with Suicide Squad right now. So you're just going to have to settle for these TV shows, but that's what Disney Plus wanted you to do. They wanted to expand your favorite characters from the MCU into television shows. Now, I know you all know this. So they've already put out a whole slate of MCU movies they're going to do, or TV shows they're going to do. WandaVision, Falcon, and the Winter Soldier, both of which are coming out next year. Loki will be out next year as well, so you're going to get 3 of those as well. She-Hulk, there's talk that the actress that they hired for She-Hulk actually won't be playing She-Hulk, but after what happened this week, I'm a little bit hesitant to believe that story. Mark Ruffalo is going to be signed on to join that as well. There's going to be a Miss Marvel TV show. Is going to start working on. They've already started work on some casting on that one. There is a Nick Fury with Samuel L. Jackson. He's going to get his show is going to get underway very shortly. I feel like Oscar Isaac has been signed on to play Moon Knight, so they're going to do a Moon Knight show. So that's 7 shows right there. And then those shows are, if they're successful, which they're going to be, we'll get second season, stuff like that. I think they've already signed on a Loki second season. Is the only one of the series coming out so far that's been announced to having a sequel. WandaVision has had a few episodes added to it, but a lot of people believe that's going to be more of a setup to the Doctor Strange sequel, which will be coming out next year. They've already started filming that as well. So, that's another one that's going to be coming out soon. So we have that going on. So one of the other ones that they announced, the 8th one, which I didn't say anything about because we're going to talk about it right now, is a Hawkeye show now with Jeremy Renner. Got through his legal problems okay, that Disney's okay coming out and doing a TV show. Now, when it was announced that he was going to be doing a TV show, everyone assumed that they were going to be taking from the Matt Fraction series, basically where Hawkeye buys a like a slum house where poor people, good, decent, hard workers who happen to be poor are living in squalor, and he buys it to help them out and becomes their landlord and gives them a better way of life. But the area is perfect for a business venture. So some businessmen are trying to destroy the building so they can buy the land cheap, so they can expand their business, so on and so forth. So Hawkeye's there to protect them. And that's a great idea for a series. And it's supposed to introduce Kate Bishop, who is a protege of Hawkeye's, who has his skill when it comes to the bow. She's younger than him, and it's the next generation of heroes that he is going to help train. So everyone thought that that's what the storyline was going to be, and then for the most part, Jeremy Renner says, "Yeah, that's what we're going to be doing." And then weeks and months ago, they were talking about potential casting, and they said that Haley Steinfeld was going to be playing Kate Bishop. And everybody's like, that's a brilliant casting. And it is. It's brilliant casting. So I was like, okay, that's a really good idea. So I'm really excited about this. Jeremy Renner was going to come back for his Hawkeye, and it was going to be interesting to see what was going to happen. But then a month or so ago, there was, talk of the show, and maybe it was a couple weeks ago also, where Jeremy Renner did a behind-the-scenes picture of him all scarred up like he looks in the Matt Fraction series. And it's like makeup test says, okay, we're getting ready to film it next week, meaning this week. So I was like, okay. But then there was talk that, well, we still don't have a Kate Bishop. Everybody's like, but I thought Haley Steinfeld. And Haley's like, no, I'm not involved. I'm like, oh, shit. So now what are they going to do? And said, how are they going to start filming the show if if you're going to have a Kate Bishop character in a week if, Haley Steinfeld's not been cast? Who's been cast? So this week, they started filming the show. And sure enough, behind-the-scenes pictures came out with Haley Steinfeld in them playing Kate Bishop. So I don't know why she was lying about not being cast in the show, but it is her. It's her as Kate Bishop because she's walking the dog. That's part of the Fraction storyline. And most part, the producers like, yeah, it's Haley Steinfeld. She's going to be playing Kate Bishop. So it's sort of like, why did you lie? And I don't understand that. So that's why I'm thinking that the actress who was cast as She-Hulk says that she hasn't been cast as She-Hulk. I think she has been, and for whatever reason is not Marvel, Disney's idea, I don't know, whatever, is not verifying it until the show actually starts filming. So I don't know. But the bigger news about the Hawkeye show is not just Haley Steinfeld, which is big enough news, but is also that the cast they've got surrounding him. Vera Farmiga, who, for those who remember the show from a few years back when Jerry Fletcher was one of my co-hosts and we do our top 10 lists, Jerry Fletcher went to middle school and high school with Vera Farmiga. So she kind of knows her. I think she said on my show once that they weren't friends, but they were acquaintances, so they knew each other. And I think Vera went to their reunion that they had recently, so that was kind of cool. But she's been cast in a role. We don't know what it is yet. Haley Steinfeld, as I said before. And then the one that caught everybody by surprise, that made them go, that's very interesting, is Florence Pugh has been cast, and she was reprising her role as Black Widow in the Black Widow movie that was supposed to be out this year, but has now been shifted to May as of now, though there's talks that Disney might be releasing it on Disney Plus, but we'll get to that story in a second. Not a second, like 10 minutes from now. Florence Pugh is playing Natasha's sister and is a big part of the Black Widow movie. So obviously it looks like she survived the Black Widow movie, though lots of people thought and that's why they believe that in between Civil War and Infinity War, Natasha went from being the recognized from Civil War to being the blonde in Infinity War, was because Florence Pugh's character is blonde, and they believe that they thought that she was doing it as an homage to her dead sister. Excuse me. So, but she will, and it has been verified that she will be reprising her role as Black Widow, which could be interesting considering Natasha's relationship with Clint. So maybe he knows about her as well. So it could be interesting. So I'm actually getting excited for the Hawkeye show now, because I think Haley Steinfeld is the best casting for Kate Bishop, and Jeremy Renner, I think, deserves, despite his personal life, I think he deserves a chance to shine a little bit. And Matt Fraction's Hawkeye is one of the best versions of Hawkeye out there, and I think they're going to bring in his deafness, which is great because that's a great character that Mark Gruenwald put in place back in the 80s when they did West Coast Avengers. So that should be good. Last week, I was telling you how excited I was about that Tom King's Batman Catwoman #1. The comic was finally going to be, which it was, with a Clayman on artwork, and his artwork is always beautiful, draws the women gorgeous, and is very good at drawing action and costuming, and is really good at everything. And it came out this week, and I bought it, and I read it this morning, and I'm a little disappointed in it right now. Granted, it's only the first of a 12-issue series. Basically, what we get out of this is that the animated film Ghost of the Phantasm, or Mask of the Phantasm, which is fantastic. If you haven't seen it, definitely check out the Batman animated series, Mask of the Phantasm movie. Introduced Andrea Beaumont as a former lover of Bruce Wayne's, whose father was killed technically by the Joker. Before he was the Joker, he was a bodyguard for a mafia guy, and her father sort of screwed a mafia guy, and so they ran, and eventually they were found, and the Joker ended up killing her father, and that ruined her for life. And so she wanted to go get revenge on the villains and stuff like that. So she used a voice changer, so it sounded like it was male, so that it would take her away. Used a voice changer, so it sounded like it was male, so that it would take her away, and she reconnects with Bruce Wayne, and they have reconnected their love, but then it's discovered that she's actually the one who's the killer, and she's going after the Joker next, because the Joker was actually the trigger man who killed her father. So it ends in a twisted like carnival place where she gets the because Bruce was willing to give up being Batman for her so they could get married and have a family, stuff like that, but because she had to finish this and the Joker was the last person she needed to take out and literally kill, she killed people before that, it started gnawing at Bruce the bad way. So he started rejecting her ideas of, maybe be able to live happily ever after. So she finally gets her revenge on the Joker, burns down his carnival thing, and then disappears with him. That's all in the movie. Now, apparently in the comic, all that happened in the the universe that this takes place in, because, and we'll get to that in a second. We'll get to it now, actually, because that's a big part about this. So it was mentioned that actually happened in the comic. Now, this comic is part of DC's Black Label, which is one of those sort of Elseworlds sort of labels now where artists are given a chance to do a different take on heroes and villains and stuff like that, not necessarily in chronological order. Now, Tom King's Batman run that he did for 90-some issues was supposed to be what was going on in the world of Batman. And then he was sort of bum rushed off the book because he wanted Batman and Catwoman to get married and all this stuff and to change the status quo. And then they've done all these like anniversary books about the Joker and Catwoman and Batman and Robin and all this, where Tom King was able to continue his storyline, where Selina gets pregnant with Bruce's baby, and it's Helena Wayne, who turned out to be Huntress in like a Earth 2 alternate world. And then there was also a shot where they grew old together, married, and Batman retired, and they stayed married. And then eventually Bruce died, and Selina was still alive. She's an old woman, and their daughter's grown up now. So it was one of these things. So he basically, Tom King does in this comic, the first issue, there's like 4 or 5 different stories all going on at one time. One takes place in the future where old Selina, after Bruce has died, is taking care of some business she needs to do. We find out that Helena is a lesbian, which is okay, as I said. Then it also cuts between the present day where Andrea Beaumont comes back into Bruce's life. And as I said, Ghost of Phantasm took place in that world. And she needs to ask a favor because basically what happened was once she took the Joker away, she didn't kill him. He got away, and so she ran away so he wouldn't come after her. And sorry, I just see this. To come after her, and so she went into hiding. But somewhere along the line, she met somebody, got pregnant, and gave birth now at 14 years old, and then he ran off to Gotham. So she comes to Andrea comes to Bruce, knowing that he's Batman, and says, "Can you find my son for me?" So at this time, Bruce and Selina are still together. She's not pregnant yet. They're still having sex like crazy. And they're still so into each other and so in love with each other. And they do some investigating and learn that he was killed, that Andrea Beaumont's son was killed by the Joker. Or by Joker gas, I should say, which puts their face in a permanent smile and their eyes white and stuff like that. So we have that story. And then we have, what's the other story that they've got going on? Selina is connected to the Joker in some form or another in present day. And then there's a story that I think takes place back in the past. So it's like all kind of confusing, and I'm sure it'll all work out in the end, but it was just sort of mad. It wasn't quite what I was expecting. I was expecting more of the Batman and Catwoman relationship, stuff they were doing together, and having Phantasm be the main bad guy to their happiness. That's what I was expecting. But again, first issue of 12, so we'll see what happens. It was okay. Artwork was beautiful, so we'll see what happens. I would still recommend it, so if you want to go out and check it out, definitely go ahead and get it. Speaking of which, Jim Lee did a cover for the book for the first issue, and who knows? You might want to, if you were able to buy his original artwork, you might hold on to it, because this week Jim Lee sold his cover art for Uncanny X-Men number 268. This is back in the 90s. This is when right around first time when he was getting big and was starting out. I think it was the late 80s, right before he went to Image. He was the artist on Uncanny X-Men, and he drew a cover for a story that Chris Claremont was writing about how Natasha and Captain America and Wolverine teamed up at one time in the past, because they're all old for the most part. And back in the cover had the 3 of them on the cover. And so someone had bought the original artwork and they auctioned it, and it sold for $300,000. So original artwork for a cover by Jim Lee sold for $300,000, and that's fairly impressive to talk about that. Other DC stuff going on. Anna DuVernay, who's developing a New Gods movie with Tom King, also has declared that she will be doing a TV show, developing a TV show for the CW based on the DC comic Naomi, which was written by Brian Michael Bendis and introduced new characters and new situations and stuff like that. And it's a really good series. And the fact that they're going to make it into a TV series and Anna DuVernay is the one who's going to be working on it is very good. Speaking of, I mentioned Chris Claremont. Chris Claremont generally is considered to be the greatest X-Men writer of all time. Yes, even better than Stan Lee. And he had also the longest run of any writer. He wrote the giant-sized X-Men from the 70s, which introduced Wolverine to the team, and Colossus and Storm and all these characters which he created. And he wrote it for basically almost 30 years. And eventually he retired from writing it. And now there's been numerous other writers who have been writing it as well. Well, Chris Claremont is coming back to Wolverine in a new series with Steve McNiven artwork. Steve McNiven has some pretty fancy artwork, so we don't know what the storyline is going to be yet, or if it's going to be a mini series or regular series. We don't know yet, but Chris Claremont will be coming back to write Wolverine. So good on that. Random horse wanders into a guy's house and just makes themselves at home. It's always interesting to see these animal stories where animals just sort of appear in people's houses or in other places as well. Like there's a bear that showed up in a Tennessee shopping center. Closed circuit TV shows him wandering around. It's one of these, not like a mall, but it's one of these like, Main Street sort of shopping areas where all the store fronts are on one street and you walk up and down there, stuff like that. So this bear is just walking around. It's after it's been closed, so nobody was out and about. But the fact that there's a bear walking around in a shopping center at night is, if you happen to be, taking a jog or whatever, and you see a bear walking down there, you're going to be fucked. So, whoa, interesting. Also, speaking of that, Australian family is surprised. Australian family is surprised when they come home and discover a koala bear on the Christmas tree. They don't know how the koala bear got in. It wasn't there when they brought the tree in, so somehow it came into the house and is hanging out on their Christmas tree. And yes, even though it is summer down there, they still celebrate Christmas like everybody else. Does China actually doing human tests to create biologically enhanced super soldiers? That's what some people are saying, that they have some proof that the Chinese are working on creating a master race, where we've heard that before, obviously, of people with enhanced abilities, similar to Captain America, though, instead of the blind Nazis. You can get enhanced super soldiers, which problematic down the line. Now here's a story, and it's about China as well, that I've never heard before, and I had to read a little bit about, do some research on it to read the article itself because it's kind of scary. There's something called the Havana syndrome, and I did not know about this. Now apparently, over the last couple years, United States diplomats in China and in Cuba have reported feeling weird and odd, and not in a good way over the last few years. Like they found something, but they're not sick, it's not like COVID or anything like that. This has been going on for years. And it was just bit things where they're tired or worn out, or they feel funny, or they dizzy, they collapse, stuff like that. No one knows what it was. Well, scientists have been researching it and talking to the eyewitnesses and testing their bodies, and they've made a startling discovery. And this isn't fake news, and this isn't something that this was actually by Yahoo News, I think, posted this article. Basically, the scientists discovered that the Havana syndrome, all these feelings I just told you about, were created by microwave energy. Now, they're basically thinking that Russia has maybe developed a microwave laser sort of thing. And to kind of fuck with the United States, they beam this microwave stuff, which I think is one of the laser things, which I think is one of the things you can't see, but the microwave radiation or whatever, when it hits you, it affects you. They've been testing it on the US diplomats in China and Cuba to see how it works. I think there's going to be more investigation into it, but this is what the scientists have discovered when they've done their research. They looked at the science, listened to the people who've been affected by it, took a look around in the diplomatic embassies and stuff like that, and possibility. And it's to be something that actually is going to happen. Scientists have also mapped over 1 million new galaxies in 300 hours. So 1 million galaxies have been mapped. I guess it just means, stars, locations, and spots and stuff like that. So that's an interesting thing as well. The Arecibo telescope I told you last week is being defunded, and been some videos of stuff, of the space telescope getting us. It's a ground telescope being and stuff like that. Well, Starlink video from a drone shows that Arecibo's satellite has actually collapsed. And this drone footage shows the actual collapse of these Arecibo satellites, so telescopes. So it's kind of depressing about that. Also, we have a elf on the shelf. His name is Turkey. We've had it for close to 10 years, probably by now. My daughter is no longer all that interested in him, but my son still believes and still likes him and stuff like that. So we still bring him out every year, and we still move him around. And he went and talked to him the other day and asked him to tell Santa to bring sweatpants to him. So I love it. I love seeing that he still has the spirit and the love of it. And so that makes me happy. But I know a lot of people hating on the elf on the shelf because it's the hip thing to do. Well, this mom went a little too far and found some bones, I guess from chickens or whatever that they put together, formed them in the shape of the elf, and then told her child that the Grinch hates Christmas, ate their elf on the shelf, and all that's left are these bones. And I just got to think that is the terrible parenting to destroy your child's dreams or beliefs because you think it's the hip thing to do. Obviously, she, when she saw how affected her child was, she apologized. Said, "Oh, it's not real. I was just joking with you." It's not funny, particularly for younger children who are now might be scarred by this because you thought it'd be silly and do. You can go fuck yourself, woman. Terrible mother. You're not funny, and it's not a hip thing to do. Speaking of hip, Starbucks is back. Irish cream cold brew. So if you like their Irish cream coffee and their Irish cream cold brew, well, guess what? It'll be coming back probably in January. So enjoy it while you can. Oscar Isaac is all over the place. As I said, he was signed to play Moon Knight. He's going to be in the new Dune, which I have to tell you about in a second. And he has now been cast as Snake in a Metal Gear Solid movie that's going to be in shortly. So he will be playing the main character of Snake. I talked about Starbucks. Last week we skipped Kit Kat, but we have a Kit Kat story this week as well. The Japanese Kit Kat was aged in whiskey barrel Scotland. So I guess, it should be a different type of Kit Kat taste, but they've always had interesting ones as well to have there. Speaking of China, though they are doing human tests to create, as I told you, enhanced super soldiers, and in embassies in China, diplomats have been feeling the effects of possible microwave. The one thing China is not doing, despite the alarmists here in this country, they are not amassing an army in Canada to invade the United States. Someone saw photos of people in fatigues in Canada and automatically said, oh, look, probably a QAnon person. The Chinese are going to invade America and only Donald Trump can save us. Fuck you, Donald Trump, and fuck you, QAnon. But no, that was video of a Canadian army doing their regular, whatever the military stuff does. So that is not a true story. So get your news from real sources. Why don't you? Let's see. Some sad news. Queen Elizabeth's beloved Dorgie / a Dachshund / Corgi mix named Vulcan passed away this weekend. Kind of a sad story about that. I probably should add that to my death stories, but I figured I forgot about that. I'd say the most part. The House of Representatives did something interesting today, or this week rather. They decriminalized marijuana. Basically, they passed a law in the House which would decriminalize marijuana and would release people in jail for marijuana possession and would, for the most part, legalize marijuana. Now, again, nothing's going to happen to this until we take back the Senate, because that asshole Mitt is just going to look at it and add it to his stack of hundreds of bills that he keeps saying he's going to refuse to look at to make it look like Democrats aren't doing anything, when in reality he's being an asshole about stuff. And if the Democrats can win these runoff elections in January, it would put the Senate vote would be the vice president, who is the head of the Senate. And the vice president is going to be Kamala Harris, who is Democrat. So she will do that. So we got to win in January. And if that's the case, they'll go through all of Mitch's stupid bills that he's been hoarding for years, pass most of them, which will help out the Americans in a way. And that includes decriminalizing weed. So to be continued. The United States might be a weed country now, which is fine. I have no problem with decriminalizing weed. I don't think I've never had it, but I don't think it's as bad as a drug as cocaine and crack and heroin and all the other ones. I'm sure there probably have been, but I've never heard of anybody dying on them. I have really never heard of any accidents or murders when it came to marijuana. Obviously, I haven't seen everything, and there's probably a million people could probably say, yeah, I can show you stories, but I've never seen them. I've never heard the stories before. But as far as I know, I hear about crack and cocaine and heroin and LSD and all these different other drugs and how they affect people. Marijuana is apparently not as bad as the others. So that's pretty interesting to see about that. A blind woman was asked to remove a guide dog from the bus because the guide dog was black. Only in the South can you be racist against a dog also. Dumbasses. Another scene from that asshole's America. A high school was removed from the playoffs, which they got to rightfully by winning games, but they were removed after a player body slammed a referee after being thrown out of the game for breaking the rules. The high school team absolutely deserved to get kicked out of the playoffs. That child deserves to be expelled from school and face assault charges. So, take that. An Alberta, Canada man has recreated the Griswold house from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation for his holiday lighting. It's an exact replica of all the lights and stuff that are in the Griswolds and are on the Griswold's house. And it also includes a replica of Cousin Eddie's RV. So you gotta love that. That's up in Alberta, Canada. Ditto, one of the Pokemon that is hard to find because he can shapeshift into any Pokemon, and in Pokemon Go, you can only get him if you catch a Pokemon that he's disguised as. And once you catch, you don't know it's a Ditto, you just think it's a regular Pokemon. And if you catch it and it's a Ditto, it'll inform you after you've caught it that you caught a Ditto instead. Ditto is one of the more interesting looking Pokemon, and they've actually created a sofa chair that looks like Ditto. So for Pokemon Go fans, that's a pretty good, neat little thing. The owner of Frank's Red Hot is buying Lula hot sauce, which I guess is a Mexican sort of hot sauce, for $800 million. And I guess that's worth it because then maybe you'll be able to corner the market on hot sauce. I'm not a big fan of hot sauce. I just thought this would be interesting for those who were. So there you go. My celebrity crush, Sarah Michelle Gellar. For those who watch the show, you know all about this. Announced on Instagram this week that her and her family, including the nice her just and their awesome kids. Now my dream is that my son is going to date her daughter, and they'll get married and we'll be in-laws. But we'll see what happens about that. Announced on Instagram and other social media that she's involved in that her family has now grown by 2 when they bought 2 Akita twins dogs. Dog Akita, the Akitas. I don't think they bought. They say they were twin Akita pups that are now members of their family. So now they have a brother and sister, brother and brother, or their twin dogs that are from the same litter are now in their forever home. So good on that. The Akitas are adorable dogs too. So it's good on that. Some trailers came out this week. Liam Neeson is going back to the well again, doing his action films, but this time he's doing more of a grizzled one. This one's called The Marksman. It's due out in January. And basically he plays a farmer along the Mexican border, somewhere in Texas or Arizona or whatever, and gets involved with taking on a drug cartel after a young woman and her son cut through the wall and get into his territory, and the drug cartel is after him. And Liam Neeson, who was a marksman in the Marines, retired now, has his gun with him and is willing to protect his family or protect his land from these drug cartel people, as well as this young woman who's pleading for his help and her young son. And so Liam Neeson ends up shooting some of the cartel people, and they fire back and hit the woman. So now the young boy has no guardian, I guess, and the cartel people run away, but they say they're going to come after him. He learns that this young boy has family in Chicago, so he says that he will protect this child and take him to his family in Chicago while being pursued by the drug cartel. So that's the premise for The Marksman. Looks like a typical Liam Neeson sort of film. Love, Weddings, and Other Disasters. Jeremy Irons and Diane Keaton headlined this multiple story movie about weddings and love and stuff like that. Diane Keaton plays a blind woman who falls in love with Jeremy Irons' strict and stern hotel concierge. It looks interesting. Not like your typical kind of romantic comedy you expect. Plus, there's multiple storylines going on with other characters. Granted, they're all connected, but there are other storylines going on as well. I've mentioned this a few times. Pedro Pascal, who is the voice of The Mandalorian, is in Robert Rodriguez's new film. And I said weeks ago that Robert Rodriguez has now signed a deal with Netflix. And this film, called We Can Be Heroes, is one of Robert Rodriguez's, it's his first film, I think, since Battle Angel Alita. And he signed a deal with Netflix. It's going to stream live on Netflix, going to be debut live on Netflix. It was supposed to be January 1st, but they moved it now to Christmas. So you'll see it sooner than later. And basically, and then the first we've seen some, and it's set in the same world as Lava Girl or Shark Boy and Lava Girl, and they're now grown up and have a child of their own. And basically, what the film is, it's Spy Kids but with superheroes. So I enjoy Spy Kids, and to see him going back to the well again, I don't know how much it looks okay. And Robert Rodriguez's fellow June 20th birthday pal. So I don't know. It might be. I probably am not going to go out of my way to see it, but maybe sometime. But the new trailer, the first full trailer, is out for that film this week. Disney and Hulu. Disney owns Hulu, and they were trying to keep them separate for a while. Well, Disney has now decided that they may actually merge Hulu into the Disney Plus family and create one big giant thing. So Disney fans who don't have Hulu will be able to get Hulu now through their Disney Plus, and maybe add and make it more of a fun thing to do to get more people to buy into Disney Plus, because HBO Max just announced something we're going to talk about in a second. Speaking of Disney, Disney Plus and The Mandalorian, the Cassian Andor Star Wars show is currently filming. Cassian Andor was one of the characters for some time, probably next year as well, to coincide with The Mandalorian. So you're going to get some more Star Wars TV shows. This one officially is going to be worked on. Her appearance last week's Mandalorian supposedly was supposed to have a backdoor pilot for her series, but that hasn't even been looked at yet. This Cassian Andor show is presently filming, so that will be out way before the Ahsoka Tano one is. And I figured it's a good connective thread. Obi-Wan, the other Star Wars TV show that was announced, is going to actually start filming in January in the UK, January 4th, actually, in the UK. So it was funny that it was announced that it was going to be filming in Boston as well as in parts of England. And people are like, in Boston? Why would you film a Star Wars futuristic film in Boston? Then when they actually released the presser on it, there's actually a place in the UK called Boston in the UK. So that makes a little bit more sense. So the Obi-Wan show with Ewan McGregor is going to start filming in January. The Cassian Andor one is currently filming, and Mandalorian season 3, is currently filming as well. So 2021, we will get the Cassian Andor show first, probably, Mandalorian season 3, and then probably Obi-Wan, all within this upcoming year. Obi-Wan might be pushed to 2022. I couldn't tell you, but I think they're probably going to try to aim for a late 2021 debut. And the fact that they're filming The Mandalorian now might be an earlier time frame to opening. So they might release the Cassian Andor show this summer 2021. Mandalorian early fall, and then Obi-Wan in December. So we'll see. We'll find out more about that. Now I'm going to go off a little rant here because this week Warner Brothers, that their entire slate of 2020 movies, including Dune, Godzilla vs. King Kong, Suicide Squad. What's some other big ones that they got? Those are like some of the really big ones. I can't think of any of them, but Matrix 4, all these other their upcoming big films, they are going to release simultaneously and on streaming, which basically means that if Suicide Squad is set to come out July 16th, it'll come out July 16th in movie theaters and HBO Max on the same day. And movie theaters are upset about that, as they rightfully should be, because basically it means that people will not have to go to a movie theater to watch the film. Now, I get why that's a good thing too. You're at home. It only costs you the price of the HBO Max subscription. You have your own food and drink you've already paid for. You can pause it to go to the bathroom. You don't have to worry about parking or other annoying people talking or ruining the movie for you, except your own family. It's safer, obviously. It's safe during a pandemic. It makes sense, but with the vaccine coming and the hope that the pandemic is going to be that the COVID is going to be swept out of here by at least spring or early summer, and things are going to open up again, you'd think that these companies would wait a little bit longer, like they've already moved all these movies to 2021 time slots. Wait to see if they can recoup their money at the movie theaters. Because for those who don't know, the way movie theaters work is they only get like 1% of the film's gross. The production company and all that, they share the rest of it. So if a movie makes $1 billion, the movie theater only gets like a 1%. Now, it's a lot of money, but it's not as much as everybody else is getting. So what they do is they get like 100% of the concessions. That's why your concessions are so high. Why popcorn and hot dogs and soda cost $5, $6. Much like stadiums, they do the same thing as well. They get the money from the concessions. So people want their popcorn and their jujubes and stuff like that for the movies, and their sodas and hot dogs and popcorn, stuff like that. So they're going to buy it regardless. And so that's how the movie theater makes most of their money, is through the concessions. Now, they get a little bit of money, as I said, from the production company, but not nearly as much as you think they would. So they rightfully are realizing that, let's just say COVID has gone the way of the dodo, everyone's vaccinated, everything's open, and everything's running smoothly in July. Suicide Squad comes out July 16th. And you might get some people who might go to movie theaters, because I love going to movie theaters. I know of at least 2 or 3 other people that love to go to movie theaters. And I don't have an upgraded TV or sound, and I want stuff. I just get the movie. And I don't have HBO Max, and I really don't want to get HBO Max. But if they're going to do this shit, I might now have to start thinking about it. So, or I might just say, fuck it, and because it's going to be released simultaneously in movie theaters, go to movie theaters. But that's the rub is that, do you really think that there's going to be movie theaters come July 16th when Suicide Squad comes out? I don't know if that's when Suicide Squad. I'm just throwing that date out there as an example. Because they're already in trouble now, and COVID is nowhere near being controlled, and the vaccine is not going to really be ready for another few months. And then you got to get everybody vaccinated for it, and then you got to get the disease out of the door. It still might take another year or so to do that. And so movie theaters are not going to be successful. But as I said, let's just hypothetically say everything goes fine. The summer is brilliant. We can go out. Everything's back to normal. Everything's fine. Suicide Squad comes out. And the majority of people, and it's safe to go to movie theaters, the majority of people are probably going to say, it's too hot out. I don't feel like leaving my house. I'll just sit here in my comfy house with my own stuff. I can pause it, put closed caption, whatever. I can do whatever I want. It'll be fun, and I'll be able to see the movie like everybody else. I'll be able to talk about it online. Whereas people like me who want the actual experience, they're going to go to the movie theater, pay the big prices, and go see it there. Now, I can go ahead and do that, but as I said, there might not be any movie theaters to go see it if that happens, because it's going to take a massive bite out of movie theaters' money, not just from the concessions, but from the amount of money that is good the movie is going to gross. Because now a movie that might normally would have made $1 billion because it was at the movie theaters might now only make like 10 million, 50 million, maybe, if it's a good one, because everybody's at home watching it. AMC and Regal have already started complaining about it. I don't think you're going to see any changes from the WB, and I think it's kind of a stupid. Personally, I think it's going to be stupid. Plus, I still don't quite understand how they get the money, because these movies are ones that cost $200, $300 million. How are they going to recoup their money just through HBO Max subscriptions? I don't think that's how it works. Is HBO basically paying them $200 million to air their movie? I don't think that's how it works either. So how are they making their money? You'd think that they'd want to have more people come to the theater, because then they can charge the $15-20 per ticket, and they can make $1 billion if it's a good movie, and then they get most of that back. And I don't, and they can recoup the cost of the movie and make the sequels and stuff like that. And I don't understand how that's going to work if you're going to simultaneously release it on streaming and in movie theaters. The fact that there's going to be no movie theater show it at, how are you going to make your money? I don't get it. I don't understand. So to be continued again, I guess, as well. Another big story I'm going to talk about for a little bit now, and I've been talking a lot now, and it's going to be probably another half hour or so probably left in me. So let's continue. The monoliths. Now, you remember a couple weeks ago I told you about a monolith that mysteriously appeared in the Utah desert, was discovered by a helicopter crew that was surveying the area, and they discovered this strange silver monolith about 10 feet tall just in the middle of the Utah desert that had never been seen before. And people flocked to it. It became a big news story, and people flocked to it thinking it reminded them of the monolith from 2001, which talks about aliens and stuff like that. And I think, did aliens plant this there? How did this get here? It's in the middle of nowhere. Why is it here? What's it doing? Nobody knows. To it, and we're taking pictures of it and touching it and doing all this stuff. And so people started researching it and discovered that the monolith has been there since 2016, because they had some Google Maps from 2015 and 2014 of that general area, and they did not see it. And then all in 2016, there it is. So then there's also an artist who claimed that it was, eventually, that he was surprised it took so long for people to find it, but it's an art piece that he worked on, and and he shared a link to his Instagram, which showed pictures of him making various monoliths like this and placing, I think there's a picture of him placing it in the Utah desert and placing them all over. So it was like, okay, this has been figured out as an artistic sort of thing. And then basically, so for about 2 or 3 days, it was a big news story. And then it got even bigger when the next day, when people were going to do the pilgrimage to try to, find it. And then it got even bigger when the next day, when people were going to do the pilgrimage to try to, find it, it was gone. Someone had went into the middle of the night and taken it down. And originally that the artist had done it. But then there was somebody who claimed that they did it themselves. I don't know exactly the reason why. So everybody's like, oh, okay, so it wasn't aliens and all this stuff. But then, literally a day or two after that happened, one showed up in Romania. Now, it wasn't exactly the same looking monolith as this one is. And as my friend Gary pointed out, that when people got closer to it, it looked absolutely like a fake, like someone had just said, "Ooh, I want to, get attention." Also, they just found a piece of metal and they tried to smooth it out, but it didn't look as nice as the one in Utah, and so people flocked to that and stuff like that, and didn't think much about that. Then another one, a day or so, pops up in California. Then another one pops up in Texas. And another one pops up and went within days of each other. And a sixth one appeared at, of all places, a Pittsburgh candy store. Then the one in California was taken down by a religious zealot who put a cross in his place, saying that people should worship God and not aliens. The West Jordan one and the Pittsburgh one were just discovered this week. Romanian on, and the Romanian one disappeared also. So they appear, they're there for a little while, and then they disappear again. And it's kind of weird. So now, is it copycats? For the most part, I believe that's probably, there's enough proof probably that it is all copycats and stuff. being done. And then people are just taking it down because everybody's freaked out by him, I guess. I don't know. And they keep popping. It's sort of like when the clowns in 2016, one that was videotaped and another, and before you know it, there was hundreds videotaped all over the world, and then they just sort of disappeared. Is that what's going to happen with these monoliths? How are all these artists making these monoliths so quickly? Could it really be aliens? Who knows? But this story is ongoing, to be continued. But as of now, as I said, there was one in Utah, one in Romania, one in California. Those three have all disappeared. The Utah one was said to be removed by a social adventurer for whatever reason. The Romanian one, nobody knows how that one disappeared. And the California one was taken down and put up by, and a cross was put in its place by religious zealots. The ones in Texas and West Jordan and at a Pittsburgh candy shop are all presently still out and about. So, to be a lot like, as I said, those clown videos that we had so many of them pop up in 2016. So fine. As I said, we're running out of time. We're an hour and 21 minutes in, and let's get moving. So let's jump all over the place here. Oh, Kit Kat. I talked about the Japanese Kit Kat that is being, aged in a whiskey barrel. Well, this Kit Kat there's a fruity cereal flavor Kit Kat coming out. Basically, a Pebble sort of flavored Kit Kat will be coming out soon. So you go ahead and enjoy that. Lady Gaga Oreos are coming. Yes, around Lady Gaga, not the Onion, not a fake news story, an actual Oreo called Lady Gaga Oreos. I think it's got weird colored cream in it and stuff like that. So it should be interesting. A couple decided they wanted to have a severed head wedding cake. So they got one of these wedding cake artisans to create their severed heads for their wedding cake. Needless to say, their family and friends were shocked and dismayed by it. But you know what? It's not your fucking wedding. It's the bride and groom's, and that's what they wanted. So fuck off. I'll cover these last for this page because these are big news stories. I did that one. Hugh Jackman, after his run as Wolverine, or during his run as Wolverine, decided he wanted to expand his roles a little bit. So he took on the role of Van Helsing in Stephen Sommers' version of the character of Van Helsing. Stephen Sommers was the director of the first two Mummy movies. And he wanted to make a high adventure horror film with like the Universal type monsters, werewolves and vampires and stuff like that, and had Van Helsing be the hunter that hunts them down. He was trying to start a whole franchise, whatever. This was years ago, probably 15, 16 years ago. The movie came out. Didn't do as successful as he thought it was, so no one had really thought about it until recently when has been announced, so it'll be coming soon to theaters. It's being worked on right now, so we'll see what happens. Some basketball news. I'm not a huge NBA basketball fan, but this is kind of a big basketball trade, and the fact that it concerns the Washington team down the road from us. Russell Westbrook, considered to be one of the best NBA players in the world, but he's getting older. He's spent most of his time with the Washington Wizards for the Washington Wizards stud first round draft pick of John Wall, who's been on their team for a long time as well. And they said earlier in the week they weren't going to trade John Wall, and John Wall didn't really want to go. He was happy with him, but I guess they really wanted Russell Westbrook. I think that it could bring them a victory because he has experience in they just finished one, and LeBron's upset about that because short turnaround time. And hockey's supposed to start in January, same thing with them. But they didn't play a full season. The playoffs was what they were doing early this year. So we'll see what happens. Great, I got the connection is unstable. Please wait, we'll try reconnecting. Lord of the Rings cast is at the